Why? Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you today? Wow, I'm so awkward. No, I'm not. I'm not awkward. That's the first thing I need to understand. Just because you feel awkward doesn't make you awkward. That's something that, people don't always fully understand. At least me. When I see people, I mean me. Because I'm projecting. How are you, all you people, all my watchers, all my hate watchers, all the people out there? Hope you're having a beautiful morning or day or evening or 3 a.m. crash out. Whatever's going on, I hope you're having a good one. And I'm glad to be here for it. I went on a 3 mile run yesterday. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel a little bit sore, but not too bad. I take a cold shower right after getting home. Well, I guess like a cold rinse, not really a shower. Like a cold shower, like, and it's just like right after a run, like 3 miles of running. I actually like the first time, it's like the first time that I've gone on a full run, like in the past like year. I mean, I don't know. That's not true because like a couple months after surgery, I was doing like 30-minute to 45-minute runs, and I don't know. It's been a really like kind of bumpy ride. It's been a bumpy ride. Today's gonna be a bit of a short stream. I gotta leave at 9:30. It is 8:40 right now. We have time for doing. I'm gonna do an arena run. For on Thief. Because I want to test out some. We did Hunter yesterday. Today I want to do Thief. Level up the Thief faction. Get us some additional treasure hunter. Besides that, I kind of wanted to talk about a few things. Mostly like what's going on in my mind. Yesterday, I made sure when I got home to limit my input. What do I mean by this? I've been pretty good at like limiting like how much I scroll on my phone and how much I look at YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Even considering how much of a dopamine addict I am, I'm pretty good at it. You have to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get, you know, and I wouldn't be able to like, function. In order to function, I've had to like learn some strategies to limit my exposure to outside, external input. Because there's so much out there. It's bombarding you every day. Your YouTube algorithm is just bombarding you with constant need for attention. It's so needy. Even more needier than me. Like, I'm pretty damn needy. Like, if you're my friend, you're gonna expect random text messages because I'm feeling like a crisis. And like you're not gonna know what to do because you're gonna like be worried about upsetting me, but then it's actually upsetting me that you're not responding, and then when you do respond, it's like now you're kind of like you don't want to like stop being friends with me because you still want access to me because you care about me, not just for selfish reasons. But like you're worried about losing me as a friend because you really want to be my friend, but then also you're not really like sure how to respond to your text messages when you get like a random text message from a really insecure person. And so it's kind of exhausting to be my friend, and I want to change that. And I have been actually. I'm kind of telling you things after the fact, like what I've been going through, like behind the scenes, like this past like year or so. It's been quite a ride. It's been quite a ride. Um, and like I can see like things like moving forward in ways that I've never seen before. Like I had an interview yesterday with an agency that's going to be helping to train me in more social skills. Particularly, like they do sex ed as well, but like I'm pretty good at like the the sex part of it. Um, once it actually gets to that point, like I'm good at that. I'm really good at that. Um, but we live in a society, okay, and like maybe I should go to San Francisco to a certain club that would accept people like me who just want to get naked. But that's really kind of logistically difficult for me to do, and until I actually do it, it's going to be really hard. I have this thing where it's like if I haven't done something before, it's almost impossible for me to do it, but I just have to like kind of what I'm going to do when I actually get to that point is I'm going to check into a hotel, get comfortable, and then in the evening go to the club, during an event, like a special, like, event that's like, I don't know, every time I show up, it's an event. I make the event. Because there's a lot of lonely guys out there, and lonely women, but mostly lonely guys go to places like this, looking for people, and then get upset when, just like me, they're very lonely, and they don't know how to talk to people, and they're afraid of, I think most people are afraid of doing something inappropriate. I don't think most guys are creepy. I think they're just not aware of their actions. However, I don't want to apologize for people who literally are just like really inappropriate, creepy people. However, like I think most of the time, if you give people the benefit of the doubt, they just don't know what they're doing wrong. Because every time they do something wrong, they get not harassed, they get called out. Let me be clear about that. And then it shuts down the conversation in their head. And I want to help people like that because I don't want guys to be creepy. I don't want guys to be, sex pests. I want guys to get their needs met. And if I can do that for them, I think I can make the world a better place. I'm not like God's gift to society or whatever, God's gift to men or God's gift to women or whatever the fuck. But I do think that like, hey, I should, instead of calling out other people, maybe I should help people do my part, by, having sex with lots of men. Hey, it's selfish, I know, but, I think it can help a lot of people, because there's a lot of people, I see reviews and you can usually tell from reviews for places like this, like it's probably the guy that's the problem. Because there's people out there that are just perverts and they don't really understand boundaries. However, my boundaries are very, very, very lax. And so it's like, if I go to a place like that, I want people to be pervy. I want people to touch me. Within reason, and then I can train them. I can train them so that it's like, hey, my boundaries are very loose, but you have to understand that if you break my boundaries, I will set my foot down just as you would. Because it's like I think men do understand boundaries when it comes to themselves, right? Have you ever met a guy who as soon as he enters like a situation where, particularly straight men, where they feel attacked because they feel like people are, for example, women will do this too, not just men, but like, but men will kind of like act like, a little bit more gay around each other. And then guys will be like, what are you doing? I'm not gay. Don't touch my ass. It's like literally just like, patting him on the shoulder, right? But another example is when women start talking about men like, oh, like, have you considered wearing a dress? And like, women will sexualize men in this way too, by the way. Like, it's normalized, but it happens a lot. Obviously, there is a difference between being a man and a woman in our society, socially. People don't like want to admit it, but men cannot get away with things that a lot of women do on a normal basis. And also, men will get away with actions towards men that if they did these things towards women, they would be like arrested. Like men like grabbing each other's nipples, grabbing each other's ass and stuff like this. And I've seen women do this to each other too. It's obviously, you know, when you're like a friend with somebody and you're like, you know, kind of gay for each other, but you don't want to admit it, that's between you and your friend, okay? Like that has nothing to do with whether you're gay or not. Like that goes beyond gay. That's like friend. That's like a deep friend. Like, you know, if you can, you know, grab your friend's ass, squeeze their nipple, you're probably gay. But, you know, like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, guys are trained, and I've noticed this as I was growing up. Guys are trained to be numb to over-sexualized activity from each other. But then also, it trains men to have extremely strong boundaries when it comes to other men. Right? This is why men puff out their chest and start acting all like macho, like, yeah, I watch sports, I drink beer, yeah, I eat meat. Like eating meat somehow makes you not gay. I don't know where the logic is in that. But if a woman were to come up to the guy and start grabbing and start like rubbing his ass, you know, like, there are lines that men will draw, like, you know, you don't just randomly put your finger in places they shouldn't be, right? Like, you know, so like, there are boundaries that I think that because men are so like outwardly sexual, because a lot of men have their boundaries extremely violated in ways that most women don't understand. It's different. And I've learned a lot of like, you know, both sides of the equation. So it's like men are just completely normalized with over-sexualized conversations. And then when, you know, women are normalized in different ways. And so it's like, because there's a difference, there's a clash of culture. And it's hard. It's like this, like, you know, battle of the sexes, you know, like, that thing is like hopefully dying out. People need to just kind of get rid of that. Being a man or a woman or non-binary or anything should not matter. Like, you should just treat people with respect and not invade their boundaries. Now, if somebody allows you to, you know, to invade their boundaries, that's different. Especially if it's a close friend and you're like, you know, you kind of speak the same language. And that doesn't necessarily make you gay. It just means that, like, you might be gay for your friend. You're probably gay. But it's okay. You don't have to just be gay. You can be gay, you can be straight, you can be asexual. It's fluctuating all the time because you are in control of yourself. You're in control of your body. You're in control of who has access to your body and your emotions and your life story. You don't have to tell everybody everything. That's something I'm trying to learn. I have a hard time because I feel like closeness involves disclosure. It's an autistic thing, and it's also a trauma response. But it's dangerous. You know, not everybody should have access to intimate details of my life. Now, there's things I share online, but just because I share something online doesn't mean I want to share them in person with people. Not everybody watches my content. I feel like we're kind of a family here. This is like kind of my place to talk about things. This is my place to kind of let people in. But when I'm out in public meeting people, most people have no idea who I am. We haven't established that connection yet. So it's like people don't always understand that just because you share something online doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. Because, you know, like, for example, I'm a cam girl. That doesn't mean I'm just going to put out for any guy. And it certainly doesn't mean that I'm going to let a guy invade my boundaries just because he believes that because I do a certain type of content online, that means that he can just grab my ass or grab my tits. Like that, like, I don't know where that connection comes from. I think it's because a lot of men have a lot of deep-seated, for the longest time I thought it was deep-seated. Like you plant it early in life and then it grows. I actually think it should be that. Like a deep-seated belief. I think we need to change the word. It makes more sense. Because it's like you seed the idea and it doesn't really come to fruition until later in life. So it's like, I don't know. Language is fucked up. And then there's the language, the grammar Nazis. So a lot of men do not understand, and a lot of women do not understand, that there is a real issue going on with a lot of men out there. There are men who have had their boundaries violated in ways that they don't even see as violation. That, you know, like, that people can just comment about their body and then you know, it's really complicated because it's everybody's different, right? But it's just kind of normalized that it's okay to talk about a guy's body without his permission and sexualize his body. Whereas if you flip that around, you would see clearly that that's really inappropriate. If you flipped the gender, if you started talking about women that way, people are going to call you out as a misogynist. But if you talk about men that way, it's fine, apparently. I don't talk about men that way. Or maybe I do. I think I do, actually. I think I over-sexualize men sometimes. I think I talk because I understand men have different boundaries. Most men don't seem to care if you sexualize them. But that doesn't mean every man does. And so it's like, I need to be aware of this. You know, a lot of the men I've met, I usually kind of play it by ear. I'll usually wait to see like what their boundaries are, how they talk to other men, how they talk to women. And then I'll kind of like, over time, I'll kind of understand like, okay, this person is okay with me talking about him sexually or whatever. But I still don't do that just because I can. I feel like it's really inappropriate to talk about other people in that way. To like over-sexualize somebody while you're talking to them. Or even, you know, behind their back. I mean, obviously, at some point you do have to talk about like, hey, like, I'm into this person. I'm attracted to this person. And, you know, but you're having like a conversation that's like about like what your likes are. It's not even about the person. It's about you. And I think a lot of men don't understand that when they talk about women, they're not really talking about the woman. They're talking about their own likes and dislikes. And I think a lot of men are confused, and I think men need to heal. Because when they talk about women, what they're really talking about are themselves. When men over-sexualize women, what I truly believe is happening is I think they're just exploring what, you know, their sexual identity, but they don't really know how to express it, and they've only been taught that women should be objectified. And, you know, to be fair, women objectify men all the time. Like, all the fucking time. Oh, have you seen his body? He works out. Like, oh, I bet he has a big dick. Like, this is normalized in female conversation and not seen as sexual harassment. But if you flip it around, it's like, you know, like people call out men as like disgusting pigs just because they're talking about a woman's breasts. Now, here's the key difference, is when discussion turns into action. And that's why men get called out, is because a lot of men do not respect boundaries. A lot of women are attacked every single day. Men don't seem to get attacked every single day. They get attacked by men. They get attacked by, men, like coming up to them and just like punching them in the shoulder, like grabbing their nipples, or turtle tap, like, and like, just and also conversational boundaries, being overridden during a conversation. That, like, oh, what are you gay because, like, what, you watched Sailor Moon, or because you liked a play, or because you talked about your emotions. See, these are the kind of boundaries that men don't respect for other men. And then these same men did not have their boundaries respected. They were taught that their sexual preferences had to be a certain way, or they will get socially ostracized, that they'll get beaten up, that they have to be into a certain type of woman who looks a certain way, who has extremely large breasts, or they're gay, or and like that's a bad thing, because they're brainwashed into this. And you'll see this in conversations from people who just don't seem to understand the whole picture. People like certain bald content creators on the internet, who are very vocal about these kind of things, and they're shutting down the conversation because they feel attacked. That's my belief. People like this are shutting down the conversation in their head. Maybe not externally, because even if they continue to have the conversation, they shut it down in their head. They steer it in a specific direction. They might be having the conversations, but they're not allowing themselves to be open to new ideas. They're not allowing themselves to understand the whole picture, or why certain things are one way in a certain context and a different way in another context. Why women are terrified of men for a reason. Why when a woman grabs a man's body, he usually wants it. Because men are lonely. Men want to be touched in a way that feels good for them. Because men have only been touched in ways that feel bad for them most of the time. And by men, because they don't want to be touched by men, and men are it's been normalized for men to just be extremely boundary invading to each other. And men are the problem, but men are also the solution. And also it's up to women as well. I need to do my part to understand that just because men are, for the most part, comfortable with sexuality doesn't mean, that I can just invade their boundaries without, just assuming. Like, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I generally just don't invade anybody's boundaries whenever possible. I try my hardest not to invade conversational boundaries. That's a difficult thing for me. But people generally tell me in person, I'm actually like just doing perfectly fine, that I'm very respectful, and that here's the thing is, as soon as somebody brings up a boundary, it's your job to listen. It's your job to stop and analyze what you're doing. And that's what I do. And that's why I should not feel guilty for accidentally invading people's boundaries sometimes, because that's going to happen. But I always try to tiptoe. And that's actually kind of causing some problems, because I need to actually learn how to let go of like what people think about me. Because if I was invading people's boundaries, they would let me know. People are usually pretty understanding of their own boundaries. And it's disrespectful of me to think that just because I think I'm invading a boundary that I am. So I'm like the opposite direction. I'm too careful. I'm almost like, you know, asexual in my encounters with people because I'm afraid of sexual harassment. I never want to be a sex pest. I never want to be someone that invades people's boundaries in that way, especially I'm also deathly afraid of legal repercussions. I don't ever want to do anything that would make me a sex offender. That would ruin my career, first of all, but it would also ruin my social status. So I would never want to I would never want to sexually harass somebody. So I'm ultra careful not to. And it's in detriment to my mental health because from what I've noticed from other people don't give a flying fuck most of the time about what people think about them. And I'm like, I see people acting in ways that I'm like, why are you doing that? Aren't you afraid of going to jail? Like, aren't you afraid of, like, you know, sexually harassing someone? Like, you just go up to your friend and grab their ass? Like, are you serious? That's extreme to me. That you could just that easily just risk your entire social life. That you could that easily risk your career. Because if you get labeled, if you have to, I mean, I don't know, I think it's pretty hard to actually become a sex offender. Like, you have to actually do something, like, criminal. But in my mind, grabbing someone's ass without their permission is criminal. However, I think what I'm not understanding is that these people usually have, like, a history with each other. So it's like, it's hard for me to understand because I'm not used to that kind of interaction. I don't have those kind of relationships. I wish I did. I want people to grab my ass. I want people to grab my tits. So that's why I need to go to the sex club. I need to just, like, go there and just get naked and just, like, go to my corner and, like, invite people in. And if people make me uncomfortable, I'll be like, back off. And if they don't respect me, they will get kicked out. And, you know, obviously people are going to feel emboldened when you let them in, right? When you let people in, they're going to feel emboldened. And then when you set boundaries in a certain way, they might feel really confused and attacked. And for my own safety, it's very important that I learn how to tactfully, well, for their safety and for mine, but mostly for mine, because a lot of the times if you confuse people and give people mixed signals, or in their mind mixed signals, they might attack you. They might accuse you of being, like, you know, setting, you know, like, being two-faced, you know, which honestly, like, I have every right to change my mind at any time. Anybody does. Just because you agree to have sex with someone doesn't mean you're going to always agree to have sex with them. Saying yes once doesn't mean they need to say yes every time. And setting these boundaries is difficult because a lot of the times these guys, you tell them that they're allowed to touch you, and then when you say no, they get confused because they're like, oh, I thought we were closer than that. Because these guys are socially inept at this particular ability. These men are usually really lonely. They usually do not have any practice in these kind of relationships. And whenever they do have these kind of relationships, they're always walking on eggshells because they're afraid of doing something wrong. They're afraid of doing something that will get them in trouble, because they have in the past. They don't understand how this works. I don't particularly understand, but I've been very careful, and it's like, I think what happens is that when somebody says yes, that then this hypothetical guy imagines that we're closer now, and they see it like a video game, that you've leveled up and that now you're in a relationship, and that means that you can touch each other. And I don't think these men understand that it's a constant dynamic situation, that sometimes she wants to be touched. Sometimes she does not want to be touched. And she will communicate these things to you. And these men don't understand what they're doing wrong. And every time they do something wrong, all hell breaks loose. And they don't learn. And so I can't tell other women how to set their own boundaries. I think anybody, like every person, has every right to say no at any time without apology. But what I can do is, because I have very few physical boundaries with sexuality, I can be, the training simulator, for guys. Like, I can train men because I am patient. There's certain behavior that I'm like, nope. And men should know that if I say no, you're definitely doing something wrong. Because I almost always say yes to sexuality. I am that kind of person. And it's hard for me to communicate that and feel safe, because I know how men are most of the time. If you let them in and you don't do it tactfully enough, they are going to feel attacked when you set boundaries. And that's fucked up. That's their responsibility, but it's also my responsibility to mitigate that damage for my own safety. Because I don't want to be in a situation where my life is in danger. But I also want my sexual needs met. And so, like, if I go to a sex club, I have protection from, there's staff there, there's security. They also, people are generally looking out for their best interest. Obviously, some people don't care, but some people, most people don't want to get banned from, the only legal sex club in pretty much anywhere in California. Like, like, I want to go a place where I'm allowed to be naked and allowed to be sexual. And I want to let all the perverts in, because they're miserable. They just want to touch a woman. They just want to have sex and explore their sexuality. And they're afraid to even try. And there is a double standard. As a woman, like, women are allowed to express their sexuality, like, very openly. There will be social repercussions. Like, a lot of women who are that way are usually labeled as, slutty or, as a hoe. So yeah, there's social repercussions. So it's the other side of the coin, right? Like, I had to give up my social status as a good girl, whatever. I am a good girl, by the way. Just because I'm, I was just drawn this way. Just because I'm sexual does not make me bad. And this is grilled into people's minds. And I blame fundamental religion. But I also blame, like, just more, like, just in general, society is just built, hardwired this way, to see sexuality as naughty. And some people, that's even their kink. They see it as naughty, and it's perfectly fine to have sexuality, but it's kind of weird to me when people see sexuality as a bad thing. And then, what, do you think I'm bad because I am sexual? Am I just like a fetish to you? Because I'm a human being and I just have different boundaries than most women. And I don't even want to say, I can't speak for every woman. Maybe I have even more boundaries than some women. I can't speak for every woman. I can't speak for men. I can only speak for myself. And I feel like I can do my part, because I can't expect everyone else to believe the same things I do. That's ridiculous. But what I can do is I can set an example. because I can have control over my own body and over who I allow into my space and who I'm allowed into my intimate relationships. So I can control that. And so I think if more people did that, the world would be a better place. If more people stayed in their own lane and spoke for themselves rather than speaking for other people. Because what happens most of the time is that people start making broad statements. Oh, men are pigs. Oh, women are hoes. Stop it. If somebody's a hoe in your mind, have you ever considered that maybe she's just being herself and it doesn't make her a bad person? Or have you ever considered that maybe these men are just stunted? They have not had the opportunity to express their sexuality because every time they did, they were met with opposition. They were met with accusations of being a rapist, met with accusations of being a freaking sex pest. And so they're afraid to even engage in sexualized activity. And it further puts them down into isolation. And so I can do my part, one lay at a time. Yeah, I do have a high opinion of myself. So, if you're going to come after me in the comments about this, I don't give a fuck. I do have a high opinion of myself. I should. You should have a high opinion of yourself because you matter and your boundaries matter. And you do understand boundaries. If you're the type of guy who thinks that women only exist to please you, you have had your boundaries violated. And you are a victim. But that doesn't justify your actions. I want to make that very clear. You can do bad things, but also be a victim. But understanding it is the first step towards healing. Understanding that when you were growing up, boys and older boys, especially your older brothers or your cousins or kids at school, and even men in your life, adults, brainwashed you through their gaslighting, through their unbridled behavior, justifying it because it's normalized. But it's not normal. It's not. You were violated. And that's why women call you pigs. Because you were violated, and so your tolerance level is so high that you don't think that what you're doing is violating somebody else. And so to these types of men, they usually self-identify as incels, or they're labeled as incels. The first step is accepting that you were violated, and that from there, hopefully in therapy, you can start healing and your behavior will start to change. You should start with changing your behavior. If somebody calls you a pig, if somebody calls you out as a sex pest, they might be projecting, but most likely you are doing something wrong. And if you want to change, nobody's going to force you to change, obviously. But if you want to change, the first step is accepting that you were violated, probably at a young age. That you're not any less than other people. That you deserve compassion just as much as these women that you seem to see as needing to be protected. There's a reason why men see women as needing to be protected, I believe. It's because they're projecting their own need to be protected. That these men don't know how to, these men will start talking about how they were violated and they get laughed at. Not just by men, but laughed at by women. Because women are like, oh, please, you weren't violated. I'll tell you what being violated means. Because these women were violated too, in ways that these men often aren't, in very violent ways. But these men were also violated in a different kind of violence, a psychological violence, and often a physical violence as well. Men terrorizing each other as boys, dogpiling on them, beating them up, sexually abusing them, and then gaslighting them. Sometimes actually raped. And then these men grow up to be completely afraid to even talk about it, because as soon as they do, they'll get called out and said, oh, you weren't violated, you're a man. And so, like, I think there needs to be compassion from women and from men towards men. Now, before all the men's rights activists start showing up, you guys need to take a step back. You guys are blaming women and trying to justify your behavior. Stop it. Healing starts with accepting that your boundaries were violated, and then taking responsibility for yourself and your own actions, not others. So stop it. Stop blaming women for why you can't get laid. Stop blaming other people for why you can't get laid. If you want to get laid, there is definitely a path towards that. Okay? If you need to go to a sex club, maybe you should get laid with men. Why not? If you want to get laid that bad, you definitely have, that. Why would you close off your options? So clearly, if you don't want to get laid that badly, if you're not willing to settle, quote unquote, for things that you consider to be less, if you will only be with certain types of women with certain size breasts, or certain size waist, or a certain type of face, or a certain type of hair, or a certain type of height, or a certain type of, oh, I don't like her because she yells at me. Well, maybe she's yelling at you because she's trying to defend herself. Maybe because you're invading her boundaries. Because your boundaries were invaded and you were the victim and now you're becoming the abuser. Most likely. And it's not always that extreme, but that's what is happening at like a microscopic level. Anyway, I gotta leave in like 10 minutes. Let's do a quick run. Come on. Okay. Let's just level this up. Okay, let's do an Oathkeeper run. Oh no, let's do Thief. Attack speed and solar damage. Let's just do that. Got my Oathbringer. Um... Yeah. Yeah, I've got about 20 minutes. Maximum, absolutely maximum of 25 minutes. So we can't really go for too long. Oh, why is this stupid gnat showing up? Oh, when I was running yesterday, like, I need to, like, choose better times to run, because it's like, I ran through a big, giant pile of, like, gnats, like, mating. They're like... And, like, when I got home, I was just, like, coughing for, like, an hour. Okay. We get spike balls. We already get a damage reflect with that. 500%. Yeah, I feel like your abilities actually, like, don't really even matter. Like, you're leveling up, masteries. Because it's like... Eventually, your gear and, like, soul fragments just replace that. And cap everything out eventually. But, I mean, it does help you with early game scaling. Okay, extra chance to stun. Yeah, I do feel like, you know, these kind of those kind of conversations from earlier, these kind of conversations, they do trigger a lot of people. People shut down the conversation a lot of the times. But you know what? More people need to not be afraid to have these kind of conversations. Because otherwise, nothing's going to change. People need to learn how to have difficult conversations. And not just shut it down. Not just say, no, you're not allowed to have this conversation. Obviously, people are going to have their opinions. But, you know, that's what a conversation is. People are going to say what's on their mind, and it's going to be based on the knowledge they have. 2,500%. Yeah, let's start with Crest of the Lightbringer. And this is going to be, okay, here we go. We got a max rarity. More damage reflected. Sunblessed. Barrier. Ooh, max rarity. Precision volley. Here we go. Shield charge. Reduce bleed rate. I have to leave in 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, oh, we also get Ore of Soul with this. Okay. I don't know if that was the right one to use. Yeah, just doing a little bit light farming. Today's kind of a shorter stream. Although I think I made my first podcast. So I'm going to highlight that and upload as a YouTube video later. And then I'm going to rip the audio and I'm going to sign up for a podcasting syndication platform. I'm going to research into that today. That's my goal for today, is to research. Then I need to edit a video and upload it. For my other platforms. I really need to capitalize on vertical format. Like, vertical format videos are gonna really get my name out there. I mean, I think I gave the conversation a very fair treatment. Obviously, people are going to be opinionated. People are going to accuse me of being playing into the male fantasy. Oh yeah, we need Frostfire Gem. I mean, that does get rid of my Primordial, the extra Mega Crit. But I think Mega Crit's only really good for Warrior. I think Burning is gonna be, and also Freeze. Like, that's really good. Because I'm already doing Burning, I should, now Frostfire Gem is also freezing. Damaging attacks induce freezing, enemies are also affected by burn, so it's like it doubles it down. We can increase chance to burn. Like Freezer Burn. And we also have Aura of Soul because of passive from armor. I don't know if this you... It also fires 5 arrows. Yeah, see, you saw that? Yeah, I need to level up Aura of the Soul with soul cards, though. I'm on level 0. But, you know, it also gives a chance to freeze. And it's a huge aura, actually. Yeah, Aura of Soul with Frostfire Gem is actually like... Or, if I didn't get Frostfire Gem, I could use, See, here's the thing, is I usually don't... I usually get Sigil of Flames to imbue with runes. Let's... Whatever. I need to not be afraid to be controversial. It's what's going to get me the most comments on my videos, and the most shares, and the most views. Say something that's going to divide people. and I feel like I gave the conversation a fair treatment. I'm not trying to like enable the quote-unquote men's rights activists who are well-meaning. I think the biggest part of the conversation is that the people are just trying to speak up for themselves, but it often comes across and people get the wrong, like the people don't really have the most healthy outcomes of it. We're almost level 17 on Oathbringer faction. Nice, leveled up. Yeah, I can go for about another 5 minutes. Try to farm as much as we can before we leave. Like, I should have woken up earlier, but I think I think I can be fair to myself because I had a pretty strong run this morning. I mean, yesterday. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna test this out. Well, this is interesting. Huh? Yeah, this is what's gonna happen when I start getting viral for making controversial statements. It's fine. I'm farming. Okay, I got 5 minutes. Then I absolutely have to leave. Okay, I think I actually have to go and move over to this. Go collect the soul cards. Well, we're not really doing too well at trying to die here. It's too much damage reflected. I think I just have to abandon. 2 minutes. Does it cancel out everything I farmed? I hope not. I mean, either way, I farmed video footage. For what it's worth. Faction XP. I mean, I think I'm like pretty clear on like where my stance is. It's like, if people are going to not give me the benefit of the doubt, if people are going to put words into my mouth, I can't change how other people respond to what I say. I can only know, I know that I'm a good person, and I know I'm pretty fair to everybody. And I have my own biases. I really like am trying not to hate men because I don't want to be sexist. I don't want to be misandrist because I think that's a problem too. I think hating men just because men have abused women and not giving men any chance whatsoever to heal is just as bad, or maybe not just as bad, but it's pretty bad as like how men abuse women and demean women and dismiss women, which has been my experience my whole entire life in a different way. And then when I started being perceived as female, it started happening in a similar way to other women I know. And I have a lot to learn and a lot to grow as a woman, because I am pretty new to living life as a woman. And I kind of, need to, it's given me a lot more empathy to be able to listen to women's experiences. Because but also recognizing that a lot of the experiences I've already experienced, even when I was perceived as male. Because a lot of the problems that affect women also affect men, because men are treating people badly in general. Because there's been a problem for a very long time with communication. And it's just like you double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down on bad behavior. But I think it is important, just because one thing is bad doesn't mean that what you're doing is perfect. Doesn't make you an angel. And I think people really need to humble themselves. Let's abandon. Ritual endures. Okay, so you do keep all the stuff. Good. Good. Yeah, kind of a short stream today. I know. But I think we did good today. I had a pretty good discussion at the beginning that could potentially be the start of a podcast. Maybe it can go viral. Maybe it probably won't. But at the very least, I made an effort to do a very focused discussion over a topic that has been very close to me my entire life. Someone who was assigned male at birth and who was raised as male, perceived as male, and who has known lots of women who have been affected by not only my behavior, but others' behavior, and then being perceived as female and seeing it from the other side of the equation. I feel like I have valid points. I don't think I'm perfect. I think I'm always open for criticism, and I always want to open the conversation so that I can grow as a woman and not damage other people. And so, like, I'm always open for others' opinions. And I think that's the important thing to keep in mind when you make controversial statements. If you make controversial statements, you have to be open to others' opinions. That's the catch-22 with it, or whatever you want to call it. It's a double-edged sword. If you are very opinionated, it's very important that you are open-minded to others' opinions. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. You enter the arena, you're going to get dirty. And if you're not afraid to get dirty, then you're going to grow. You're going to level up. You're going to become a better person. And you're going to stop damaging the people around you. Anyway, ciao ciao. Bye-bye. Look at that bitch. She's playing into the male fantasy. She's not a real woman, because a real woman wouldn't be doing that. Okay, so what about all the women who are assigned female at birth who also play into the male fantasy because it's their superpower, because it gives them agency in their life and gives them ability to control their own narrative and express themselves and express their sexuality in ways that have been oppressed their entire life? What about those women who are not transgender, who are also like just sexualizing themselves because it's their own body and it's their own life and they want to be happy and they don't want to be oppressed anymore? See? There's a counter to every argument.